Again, thank you everyone for attending today. For your awareness, this training is being recorded and a copy of the presentation will be provided to you by tomorrow afternoon. A copy of the recording will be made available within a few days. Usually we are able to get that uploaded within a few hours, but just to be on the safe side, within a few days, it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. You will receive an email once it has been released. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's presentation is risk mitigation. Now, the intent of this training is to leave you with understanding risk mitigation. What does that mean? Not just to the buyer, but also to you, the business owner. It is ideal for any business owner that has not did business before, not just with the Department of Veteran Affairs, or you are not aware of risks, some potential risks that your business may have to the Department of Veteran Affairs or potential customers, as well as those risks to your business. Here's our agenda today. Now, according to the article, The State of Risk Oversight, an oversight overview of enterprise risk management practices, executives believe risk volumes and complexities are at their highest level in 12 years. This small business development training today is focused on educating you, like I said before, the businesses that are unfamiliar with the topic of risk. And I plan on focusing on ways to mitigate risk from the perspective of the procurement decision maker, which is the buyer, as well as the business owner. So we will talk about what is risk, how VA mitigates risk, ways to mitigate risk to the buyer, and those internal and external risks, as well as I will be providing you some resources that you can use after this training. So starting off with what is risk? Risk mitigation, it protects the interests of both the small business supplier, you, the vendor, and the VA customer. VA mitigates risk by selecting eligible, vendor-owned, and other small businesses that successfully meet federal requirements to perform work as prime contractors and or subcontractors. Some of the ways that VA mitigates risk is by ensuring the business is viable. Now, the definition for viable means that they are capable of working successfully. And some ways that VA mitigates that is by ensuring that your business is financially capable and that your business has the operational resources. Some ways your business can be a risk is low performance ratings and high credit ratings, as well as high turnover rates. And those are just some. It doesn't include all. Now, small businesses mitigate risk by ensuring that they showcase their experiences, their core capabilities or core competencies, their achievement, and those applicable certifications to successfully perform on awarded contracts. Developing a risk mitigation plan is beneficial. You want to be able to identify the risk, assess the risk, manage the risk, and be able to monitor and review the risk. Now, some common business risk categories, they include service delivery, finances, like I spoke about before, operational, reputational, as well as security. Now, awarding to those businesses that are responsive and responsible is how VA mitigates risk. If you look in the Federal Acquisition Regulations, the FAR, the words responsive and responsible are used quite often. You go to acquisition.gov and you'll see that as it pertains to, and we're speaking about subcontracting or contracting, excuse me, businesses, you have to be responsive and you have to be responsible. Now, as a matter of fact, the scope of subpart 9.100 of responsible prospective contractors, it states that this subpart prescribes policies, standards, and procedures for determining whether prospective contractors and those subcontractors are responsible. Now, government officials, they do use multiple sources of information when they are mitigating risk. And the next few slides that I'll go through is some that the Department of Veteran Affairs uses when they're identifying if a business is a risk. Now I have on here the data bank. For those that are not familiar with the data bank, it is located on the System for Award Management, which is SAM.gov. Now, starting off with where it was before, the Federal Procurement Data System, that did move over to SAM.gov, but that's where that information used to be. And FPDS is still being used. This is the only place to create and run both standard and ad hoc reports on federal contract data. Excuse me, that is on SAM.gov. But you can still run those reports on FPDS, which is the Federal Procurement Data System, excuse me. These contract data provide detailed information on all contract actions that are required to be reported by federal agencies. You can use this as part of your market research. These actions they have an estimated value of about $10,000 or more, $10,000 or more. These reports can be used to support analysis of the federal spending, including geographical analysis, that market analysis, and analysis on the impact of the congressional and presidential initiatives in socioeconomic areas, such as the small business spending. If you go on SAM.gov, I was going to do it today. I may have time. If I have time later on, I'll show you where you can go on to SAM.gov and some of the reports that are included in there. Now, the excluded parties list system, it was a database which identified vendors that were excluded from receiving federal contracts and certain subcontracts, as well as certain types of federal financial and non-financial assistance. This database also, again, was moved to SAM.gov for those businesses that are not aware. And businesses on this list, they are not awarded any type of government contract or subcontract. And again, you can go on SAM.gov to be able to look at that list. That may be beneficial for your business or helpful for your business when you are determining who to partner with, if you are looking for partners, if their name or the business name is included on there. Now, this database, of course, you want to make sure that your business remains off of. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure that your business is not a risk to the Department of Veteran Affairs or to other, clients, other agents, federal agencies, excuse me. And as a business owner, being prepared to fulfill the contract you are awarded ensures your business doesn't end up on this list. So that means if you know that your business is not capable of performing on that contract, don't bid or, don't accept the award. Now, the Contractor Performance Assessment Reporting System, which is CPARS, is used to create and measure the quality and timely reporting of performance information. As I continue through this presentation, I will say CPARS instead of Contractor Performance Assessment System. In CPARS, government officials can objectively evaluate performance and review relevant performance and integrity information before making an award decision. Now, contractors and/or financial assistance recipients can comment on the government's evaluation and concur with or refute the overall performance evaluation. So they review you, and you can go back and add your comments to whatever that review might have stated. Now, you can also review your active performance and integrity information, which the government may use in making an award decision. Because those procurement decision makers, they're going to go on there to see if your previous project, if it was stated that, you weren't on time or you weren't responsive, that information in there, when the next procurement decision maker is making the decision on between you and your competitor, that information may, be used in their determination to say, oh, okay, well, we're going to go with this business because these are things that we're not looking for or we don't want to have on the project that we have right now. So basically, going back to you making comments. If you don't agree with the buyer assessment, you do have the opportunity to make those comments. You can also review, like I said before, the performance and integrity information. Now, let's jump to why this is relevant. Your past performance information is relevant information for future source selection purposes, like I just used as an example. Your past performance can include, for example, the contractor's record of conforming to requirements and to standards of good workmanship, the forecasting and controlling costs. You know, when you were on that contract, did you say, okay, I accept this contract with this, amount being paid, and then turn around and say, oh, well, you know what, I might have underbidded, and actually this project is going to require a lot more cost. Yes, I saw a question came in and asked, excuse me, are there opportunities with VA for small projects? If you can kind of define what a small project is, I will say, yes, there are smaller projects. But if you feel like you want to provide me additional information, I can give you a definite response for that. I have seen micro purchases. VA do have, depending on the offices, micro purchases. Another thing is adherence to schedules, including administrative aspects of performance. Say, you were awarded the contract and okay, the project should be completed in 6 months. And now you're saying, oh, you know what? It's going to take an additional 6 months. Those are risks that the buyer, the procurement decision maker, are looking at. Reasonable and cooperative behavior and commitment to customer satisfaction. Reporting into databases. Number 6 is integrity and business ethics. And then number 7 is business-like concerns for the interest of the customer. So only contractors' crimes are entered into this database with CPARs. I want to remind everyone, please make sure that you're putting your questions in the Q&A box. I mentioned that earlier I think my computer froze for a second. I mentioned that earlier at the beginning of the session. Please make sure that you put your questions in the Q&A box, because we're using the chat box for everyone to add their business information to be shared with the rest of the recipients once this training concludes. We want to make sure we don't miss your question. Next is the electronic subcontracting reporting system. In the past, the federal government contractors were required to file their individual subcontracting reports on the form. And then with the Presidential Management Initiative mandated the development and implementation of an electronic subcontracting process. So the electronic subcontracting reporting system, it was implemented in October 2005. And this system is a web-based government-wide subcontracting system. And it allows electronic submission, the management, the creation of reports, and analysis of subcontracting data in that real-time paperless environment. Now, when you are reviewing subcontracting reports, the individual subcontracting report, it collects subcontract award data for a specific federal government agency when a prime and or a subcontractor holds one or more contracts over $700,000, or over 1.5 million for construction of a public facility. And it is required to report subcontracts that are awarded to small businesses, small disadvantaged businesses, women-owned small businesses, hub-zone small businesses, veteran-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, Alaskan Native corporations, Indian tribes concerns under a subcontracting plan with the federal government as well. Now, this report also collects the subcontract awards for HBCUs and minority institutions for the Department of Defense, as well as NASA and the Coast Guard. I'm going to look right now to see if we have any questions. What federal financial aid is available for an SDVOSB? I recommend that you go on the VA. I'm not aware of, with the Department of Veteran Affairs, any financial aid. Anything pertaining to money for small businesses, loans or grants, I recommend that you go to the Small Business Administration. Their agency, they do have the advisors. They'll be able to assist you, the small business owners, concerning any type of financial assistance that you're looking for your small business. The Department of Veteran Affairs does not have that. The Department of Veteran Affairs does post on grants.gov, which is completely separate from our office. And there is an advisor or a point of contact that you can speak with there, but that's on grants.gov, where you can contact that information if you are looking for grants for your business, because some businesses, it's understandable that you can receive grants for whatever type of service that you are providing. So I recommend you go to grants.gov. Is CPARS only used for federal contract assessments? Yes, the federal government uses CPARS. How many SUN contracts do we have to do before we become a prime? So it isn't a one size fit all. You do 5 and then you're a prime. It really boils down to against your competitors for that contract, because all a prime is that they are the main business that holds the contract. They are the main business that the contract was awarded to. That is what a prime is. So really, it just depends on when they are making their decision of whether or not to award that contract to your business or to your competitor. Which one do they feel like is not going to be a risk? Which one? Not just do they not feel like, but with some of the examples that I provided to you today, as far as those factors, which business looks like from the information that they would not be a risk to the Department of Veteran Affairs. That's what they will look at. So it's not a one size fit all, or you have to do like 5 or 10, subcontracting for 5 or 10. You're basically building up that competencies and past performance, that experience on those contracts. What is the website for subcontracting details? So subcontracting, usually when you are subcontracting with another business. So I recommend that first you identify, which you can do that in competitive analysis. That's one way, doing your competitive analysis, but identify those primes that have contracts. So I'll say it's easier to say it this way. Give you an example. You're looking to do business with the Department of Veteran Affairs, and you want to provide social work services to, and I'm just using it as an example because usually we're always talking about construction or IT. You want to provide social work services to the veterans. And so you see that there is a prime business that has a contract right now with the Department of Veteran Affairs. Maybe that business is missing certain things that could make what they provide to the Department of Veteran Affairs and to the veterans and their families somewhat better. The experience could be better with your business, being involved. You can reach out to that business that would have been a prime that was awarded that contract. And majority of the time, that information is located on their business website. They have a section for any businesses that are looking to subcontract with them, and you can fill out that information. It will be the same, somewhat the same as if when you're, bidding on awards with VA, but you reach out to them, submit your information, and that is a part of you basically, subcontracting, or what subcontracting will look like with that business. VA wouldn't pay you for subcontracting. That business is the one that would pay you for that, for those services. So basically, to be able to identify some of those opportunities, like I said before, you can go on the Prime website to identify that. And how, question would then be, well, how do I find the primes? Data bank. I mentioned that before. I'll talk about the SAM.gov, the System for Award Management, in a few minutes. You can find out about that and, find them from there. And then there is Subnet, which I mentioned, I'll mention in a few minutes as well. Subnet is with the Small Business Administration. That's where primes go looking for subcontractors, and subcontractors go, looking for prime. And also, don't forget about networking opportunities. Our DAP office, Direct Access Program, they host business opportunity sessions, not just with VA procurement decision makers, but also those procurement decision makers, those primes of VA contracts. So there's that opportunity there as well to identify subcontracting opportunities. I know my response was very long. I apologize, everyone. The last question I see is, will this presentation? Yes, it will be. Okay. So now moving on to capability statement. And so why are capability statements relevant? It's an extension of your website. When we conduct our capability statement workshops, we tell businesses this all the time. Your capability statement, no more than 2 pages. Any additional information that you feel like you need, include it on your business website, because you got to have a business website, do business with VA, and they're going to go on there to look at that. They're going to look for that additional information. It's already known that all of, especially if you've done a lot of projects, you've worked on a lot of projects before your businesses, sometimes you're not going to be able to fit all of that in those 2 pages. So with your capability statement, you want to make sure that you are including that relevant information. Now, procurement decision makers, they make looking at they're looking at your past performance, your core competencies, your differentiators, your company data, as well as your contact information as it relates to the requirements in the solicitation. So if the solicitation is for a business that can provide, and I always like to use baking because I love baking, but if the solicitation is for a business that can provide 800 cupcakes a day, and your business capability statement or your business resume shows that your business can only provide 600 cupcakes a day, that means that your business will be a risk to the buyer because your business is unable to fulfill the contract. And I talked about that before. You know that your business is not capable of performing on that contract. You definitely don't want to end up, lying or, saying that, oh yeah, we can do this, and then documenting it as if you can, and then you get awarded the contract and you're not successfully performing on it. End up on the exclusion list, like what I talked about before. It's a potential your business could end up on there. Or a bad rating in CPARs. You definitely don't want that. That means that, like I said, your business will be a risk to the buyer, and because your business is unable to fulfill the contract. So your business, it also means that your business is not viable. And remember, I said earlier, being viable means that your business can successfully perform. So during our capability statement training, how to create an effective capability statement training, my colleague, Mr. Brandon, he always focuses on those 5 key characteristics. I'm not going to stay on here unless you have questions on capability statement long, but those 5 key characteristics, as I stated before, are core competencies, that past performance, the differentiators, that company data and company information, as I mentioned before. When we are reviewing business capability statements, we've noticed that sometimes, if not one or more, they're missing on there. Our office does conduct capability statement workshops once a month. Sometimes we'll extend it, if we have a higher number of businesses that would like to participate. If you are interested, I do go ahead, and type CS in the Q&A box or the chat. It doesn't matter. When I'm reviewing the report, what I'll do is when I see that information, I'll go ahead and reach out to you to send you the link to register for one of our workshops. You can also just type in capability statements if you are interested in attending our workshop. And our workshop is for those businesses that you already have a developed capability statement. Previously on the previous slide, in your capability statement, you have these 5 key characteristics. If you do not have those 5 key characteristics, we will send you the link, to our YouTube channel for that training, so that you can incorporate those characteristics into your capability statement before we have you register for the workshop. So the workshop is for those businesses that are just looking for us to review it, that have already developed it, but I'll include our contact information for those businesses if you do have questions at a later date. If you're working on, you're like, okay, I don't know how to word, which is the question we get a lot. I don't know how to word my personal work experience that I'm using as my business work experience into my capability statement. And we do help the businesses with that as well. So like I stated, the system for award management, SAM.gov, there is no cost to use the system for award management. And so if you are not registered in SAM.gov, recommend you register in SAM.gov, can't do business with VA if you're not. It is a central registration point for all government contractors. Any business, like I said before, wanting to do business with the federal agencies, register on this site. You can also use this site to register to do business with the U.S. government. to update, renew, or check the status of your entity registrations. Search for entity registration and exclusion records, as I stated before. Search for assistance listings, wage determinations, contracting opportunities, as well as contract data reports. That really helps when you're doing your market research to see what exactly is the buyer buying. One of the websites, which is usaspending.gov, it includes a lot of useful information that you can use when you're conducting your market research to not just identify the buyer, but also identify those competitors or potential partners. Also, it's used to search for, to view and submit buyer preferred and service contract reports, as well as access the publicly available award data via data extracts and system accounts. So what sam.gov can be used for. Another way, when we're talking about mitigating risk, is your business currently certified as one of the socioeconomic classifications, such as woman-owned small business, HUBZone, AA, veteran-owned small business? The buyer, they use these type of certifications to identify if a small business qualifies to be awarded a contract. For those businesses that are, now VA does do business with businesses that are not veteran owned, but for those businesses that are veteran owned or service disabled veteran owned, there are those opportunities. I'm not going to go into Rule of Two, but if you're not familiar with Rule of Two, I recommend that you go to our YouTube channel to review the training that we conducted on Rule of Two. But that is very important when doing business with VA. Must be a certified SDVOSB or VOSB. Especially when during market research, when they're trying to identify, are there any veteran-owned businesses that can perform on the contract, that provide those services? When they're doing market research and you're just self-certified as a veteran-owned business, and VA has to award, contracts to certified, with the Small Business Administration businesses, basically you're counting yourself out. You're counting your business out, excuse me, of being awarded that opportunity, or for that opportunity to be awarded, put as a set aside. When there's more than two and they meet all the other criteria for Rule of Two, that solicitation could be set aside for and I'm talking about veteran-owned right now and service disabled veteran-owned businesses, but other socioeconomic classifications as well. It all boils down to what the agencies, all the agencies have a small business goal. And so if they're trying to meet their numbers, like for example, with woman-owned small business, they're trying to meet their goals. They're looking for this contract, and it's determined that they're going to set it aside for a woman-owned small business, but you're not certified as a woman-owned small business, and that agency is looking for only certified women-owned small businesses. You're basically counting your business out of that opportunity, especially if you meet, you're able to perform, you're responsive, you're responsible, your business is. How is your business website relevant? Now, as I mentioned earlier, your business resume or capability statement is an extension of your website. Once you have provided your capability statement to the buyer, usually they want to know more about, they want to know more because you're not able to include all of that information again on your resume. So they go to your website, and what do they find? Well, the first thing, they can't, or they aren't able to access your website. One of the things that we recommend for businesses, and I posted up a short video, I think it's about 4 minutes, showing businesses how to make sure that their website is behind, that they can get behind the VA firewall, excuse me. That's on Palo Alto. So if you go to our LinkedIn, I think it's still pinned to the top of the page. You can see that video if you're not sure, or you can reach out to us and we can check to see. And what that basically means is that with the VA firewall, we're not able to access, a lot of websites. And so with you being a business owner, if we here at OSDBU aren't able to access it, that means the Procurement Decision Maker isn't either. So one of the good things, free ways for it to be fixed, is for you to just follow those instructions that I did provide in that video. And, especially if we are able to identify that we can't access your business website, so that it doesn't hold you back, it doesn't hinder you. Another way for identifying risk, some ways a small business may be able to mitigate risk, is by subcontracting. Talked about that earlier. Joint ventures and contractor teaming arrangement. So as a subcontractor is contracted to work on a specified federal opportunity through the prime contract awardee. And I talked about that earlier. And as a subcontractor, the small business gains the opportunity to build their past performance. They gain the opportunity to increase their experience and gain the confidence of the procurement decision maker when it comes time to evaluate small businesses as a prime on future contracting opportunities. There have been businesses they did not have that past performance. They had that personal experience, past performance. They did not have that past performance with their business that were awarded contracts. But not having past performance, just to place that reminder there, not having past performance, it doesn't mean that your business is not capable of performing on the contract. But you have to remember that the buyer is looking to mitigate that risk. It's looking to make sure that they don't take this money and they spend it, with this business. And then because the customer is the veteran is not getting what they're supposed to get. So they have to make sure that they are managing that correctly. And so mitigating risk, sometimes those businesses, or majority of the time, those businesses with that past performance that have shown that they can perform on those awards are awarded, as opposed to a business that does not have any past performance at all. It really will depend. Again, like I said before, it's not a one size fits all. So it really would depend on the services that are being provided as well. Now, joint ventures, it allows two or more small businesses the option to combine their expertise to successfully respond to a federal contracting opportunity. So let's just say I have my business and my colleague, Curtis, has his business. And, in this contract, there are certain things that my business is not able to, perform, but Curtis' business does. We decide that we want to do a joint venture together, so that as this joint venture, this new entity, this new business, we are going to then, and this is for businesses that are not familiar with joint ventures, we're then going to bid on this contract, because now our new business has all of the performances or competencies that this procurement decision maker is looking for. So when you are forming a joint venture, those product and or service expertise is combined in addition to assets, those liabilities, financials, and the size standards, among other variables. Okay, so when you're creating a joint venture, small businesses are creating a new legal entity. So that means just like how everything that you did when you started off creating your own business, when you decide to enter into that relationship, same thing. Now, joint venture relationship, they're either temporary or permanent, and they do require its own UEI, tax ID number, among other items newly formed companies require, Now, we don't really mention, because we're a federal agency, DUNS number, but for any businesses that are on the call today that do still do business with state and local, make sure that you have your DUNS number as well. There are some state and local agencies that still require a DUNS number, but if you're solely just doing business with VA or the federal government, we no longer use DUNS numbers. We use UEI. You don't have to, apply or request for that. It is in SAM.gov on the System for Award Management. Now, for any additional information regarding joint ventures, if you have any other questions, it's piqued your interest, you haven't heard about it before, what is it? Please visit the Small Business Administration website. They actually include a lot more information. They have someone there, an advisor there, that will be able to assist you further. But then also, we just finished up our training. So please visit our YouTube channel, where we collaborated with a small business and her attorney to conduct our second phase of a partnering training, which included joint ventures and mentor protege information. Again, majority of the trainings that I'm mentioning, our trainings, they are on our YouTube channel. Curtis or Norman, if you could please place the YouTube channel, the YouTube link in the chat. I saw there was a question that says, what is your YouTube link? It's not private either. So yeah, they'll place that in the link, and I recommend that when you go to it, just save it, bookmark it on the web browser that you use, because all of our trainings are recorded and we include them on there. Now, contracting teaming arrangements, they are those formal agreements that are provided by the General Service Administration. And by forming a contractor teaming arrangement, the General Service Administration schedule contractors can compete for schedule orders for which they wouldn't otherwise qualify, take advantage of streamlined acquisition procedures, increase their market share and become more competitive, reduce the risk by sharing responsibilities with other team members. That's what when you're teaming. And as well, focus on the products and services that best match the business resources and strengths. So all information regarding CTAs, contractor teaming agreements, can be located on the GSA website. We did also work with the small business and her attorney, like I mentioned before, talking about, they went more on the, it was more information provided on the legal side and the operational side during those trainings, but it is on our YouTube channel. Excuse me, it's on our YouTube channel concerning prime and sub relationships, subcontracting, and teaming agreements. Now, this is only for those businesses that require bonding capacity. Bonding capacities can influence a small business eligibility to bid on a contract as well. A surety bond or a bonding capacity, it could be required when you are bidding on a large contract, especially for construction projects. So many service contracts and occasionally supply contracts also require surety bonds. And a surety bond, it is a document signed by the contractor and the surety company that assures the project owner that the contract will be completed. So a surety bond is required by any federal construction contract that is valued at $150,000 or more when bidding or as a condition of contract award. The Small Business Administration, it has a lot of information. They have a lot of information regarding surety bonds, and they can assist you, one of their advisors, they can assist your business with them if it is needed. So as you've seen throughout some of this presentation, I mentioned the Small Business Administration as it pertains to those fundings. You can go on their page. As a matter of fact, use your search engine. You can search just SBA surety bonds. It'll take you directly to that page, or SBA loans. It'll take you to that information as well. So now we're coming to a conclusion with this training. This is bonus content that I've provided, and I feel like it's useful information for the businesses. Now, these are some key points that the Small Business Administration has provided for small businesses to remember as it relates to mitigating risk. And I'm not going to go through all of them and read all of them, but some of the key points are: begin assessing risk by listing events or resources that could impact continued operations and cash flow. You want to make sure that you take a look at that. You're not going to be able to identify every single risk, but that's I would call it the bright side of things, is that even though you're not able to identify every single risk, because risks are going to come up, risks may happen, mitigating, which basically means that you're just preparing for, if sometimes you're preparing for it to never happen, but then if it were to happen, what is that? Let's just say plan A, B, C, or D. How can I, if this were to happen, because it's outside of my control, how can I recoup, or how can I fix it? I'm going to answer just a few questions. Go in the chat for a second. Okay, thank you, Curtis. Oh, thank you, Curtis. I see you've been responding to a few. Okay. How does the VA check company credit ratings, Dun and Bradstreet? Also, is it for every procurement or only select ones? So when they're looking at those factors, they're looking at those factors overall. As far as Dun and Bradstreet, I am not sure because of the change with the UEI. So actually, we'll be working on updating that information. I can reach back out to you. I'll find out if they are still using the Dun and Bradstreet supplier evaluation rating, or because they're no longer using Duns anymore, if they are just solely looking at the other factors that I mentioned before. But I'll get back to you with that information. Is the video 3923, your presence is required, the ins and out of a successful website? I'm not sure what you're asking. That is concerning the website, Mark. If you could clarify what your question is, even when you're placing your questions in the Q&A, it's like we can see your name once, but if we're looking at the other businesses, we might not know if we ask you to clarify what, what your response would be. So if you just clarify your response for getting behind the VA firewall. Oh no, for getting behind the VA firewall, that's located on our LinkedIn channel. On our LinkedIn page. Curtis or Norman, if you could post our LinkedIn page on there, I think it's pinned on our LinkedIn page. I can check with our communications, but the video was uploaded. And so it's about 4 minutes long, but yeah, it's on our LinkedIn. Okay, so going back, because I don't see any more questions, going back, another key point to remember is be honest in reviewing your business for risk and knowing the warning signs. You have to be honest with yourself. That's the only way that you'll be able to, as a business owner, mitigate those risks. If you know that, you have 4 staff, 1 is iffy, and you have a contract, whereas, for example, and when I say iffy, meaning iffy, sometimes they come to work, sometimes they don't. But on the contract you were awarded, it said that the requirement was for you to have 4 staff that will come into the office X amount of days, whatever it may be. You have to be honest with yourself on looking at that, because like I stated before, if you only have 3 staff members that are coming in and it was a requirement of that contract for 4, you're placing your business at risk to not be successful on that contract, especially if it's a required, it's needed, a necessity, for 4 bodies to be completing those assignments. Otherwise, just only having 3 would place your business behind. So this is also some bonus information that I included for you to print out, or, for those that are tech savvy, computer savvy, you can use your computer and fill in the rest on those lines. But looking at your internal and external threats, there are 4, but I'm only focusing on the internal and the external threats. Internal, those can generally be controlled once identified. For example, like I stated, if you have staffing issues, you can see that, and then you can find ways to mitigate it however you so choose to run your business. And then those external threats, as I stated before, they may be out of your control. One of those, what I consider as an external threat, is when COVID happened. For a lot of businesses, they ended up being shut down, or they weren't able to perform successfully for whatever reason, whatever the factors were for when that happened. Nobody knew. It was out of everyone's control. But having a plan in place to be able to say, okay, if operations slow down, or if staff is limited, or if finances this or that, to be able to see how you can pivot, and still be able to perform, or even if you're not able to perform, still pivot with your business where it's not being a risk. You can fill in that information that's there. Here is some bonus content. I talked about the risk mitigation plan earlier: identify, assess, manage, monitor. I'll show you SWOT analysis in a minute. You can also use that. But here are some common business risks. We always talk about financial or operational, environmental, reputational. This might not apply. Well, sometimes it does though. Have you ever, where you're looking to purchase something, a product, a plumber, or for housekeeping, and what do? You look at the reviews. You see, or maybe even doggy daycare. You look at the reviews, and then you see one bad comment. You see another bad comment. Reputational is another, common risk. It might be, someone that they don't even know anything about your business. They just placing the information that's on there, but that could cause you to miss out on those opportunities. The potential buyer sees it and they're like, oh no, Same thing. It's the same way as with CPARs. It's, that information that's in there where that procurement decision maker is saying, hey, this, had a project with this business. They did not successfully perform XYZ, whatever that information may be. Health and safety. And then I'll end it with service delivery, performing, the product that you are providing, especially for some businesses that are, for example, what we do with education and training. If you're on, you've been awarded a contract to develop, 3 trainings or something to that nature, and the trainings are subpar, coincides with that service delivery. You just want to make sure, basically, bottom line is that your business is able to perform successfully. I mentioned before about SWOT analysis, performing an analysis of your business's internal strengths, and weaknesses, and your business external opportunities and threats. They may uncover those overlooked risks. Before, I showed you where you can write those down. You can use SWOT analysis for that. Now, to be effective, those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, they should be very candid and honest. You should, provide a very candid and honest assessment of your business. And also, don't forget that some risks can also be opportunities. Now, the whole time I've been talking about risk. But again, sometimes those risks can be opportunities for advancements, possibly opportunities for additional projects. These are some additional resources for you as well. I do recommend visiting the U.S. Financial Literacy and Education Commission site. April was Financial Literacy Month. We love to conduct those trainings concerning financial literacy for businesses, because sometimes, and I'm not sure of the percentage, but sometimes it is the finances that, places the business at risk to that buyer. They're not, they don't have basically the money to be able to fund whatever the job may be. Sometimes that contract may ask for them to have upfront. One of the examples that I like to use is when there was a solicitation that was posted that said that the business had to provide all the vehicles, all of the staff, all of the computers, and the other information that was there. Okay, in order to have those, right, in order to have the vehicles and the rest of the stuff, you got to have the money to be able to purchase those items. But if you don't, how are you able to, how are you able to provide that information, those services or those products that they're requesting for you to have in order for your business to perform successfully? Not using, one of the things that we talk about is not using a good accounting system. So you want to make sure that you're looking at those. So again, U.S. Financial Literacy and Education Commission site. In the U.S. National Strategy for Financial Literacy for 2020, it does state that financial education is key to unlocking the foundation of economic opportunity and powering a strong and resilient economy. Americans must acquire financial skills and knowledge to fully participate in our dynamic economy. And so, in summary, because now we've reached the end of the presentation with 8 minutes to spare, I reviewed how VA mitigates risk and how you, the small business owner, can mitigate risk. So I want to remind everyone, before I go to the questions and start reviewing the questions, that we will have a quick survey after this, and strongly disagree is listed first. So I want to remind everyone that agree and strongly agree are listed last with our new surveys that, well, it's not new. We've probably been doing it a little over a year now, almost 2 years. Yeah, a little over a year and a half. But I just want to remind everyone, when you're completing the survey, please don't forget that strongly disagree is first and then strongly agree is last. Here's our contact information. If there was a question that you had and you did not, feel comfortable or want to ask the question here, or say I conclude this presentation and then a question comes to you, please send us an email, osdbustratcom@va.gov. We also have the OSDBU help desk, but me, my colleague Curtis, and my colleague Norman, we have my other colleagues, they're not on the call today, but me and Curtis, we review and monitor, we monitor this inbox, OSDBU-Stratcom. Any questions that you have, you want to have a one-on-one meeting for assistance, we can identify how to assist you. You can always send us an email. So going back to the Q&A. Thank you, Curtis. You responded to a lot of these. How do you get certification for disabled veteran-owned small business? The Small Business Administration website. So it did transition. I'm not going to go into all the specifics of the transition, but If you're looking at certifying your business as a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, go to the SBA, Small Business Administration website. You can actually use your search engine and type SBA and then type OSDBU certification, and the link will pop up for you. How do you get information to develop the capability statement? I recommend that you go to our YouTube channel. There is a training called Capability Statement. Let me see, because I do have a little bit of time here. Let me share my screen. Share with. Can everyone see my screen, Curtis or Norman? Can you let me know if you can see my screen?
We can see it.
Okay, so when you go to our YouTube channel, if you actually click on videos, because if you are on the home page here where it says videos, those are our most recent videos that we uploaded, as you can see, our most recent trainings. But if you keep clicking on the arrow, it's not going to take you to every single one. So we do have at the bottom where it says created playlist, or I like to direct businesses to where it says video. When you go to the videos, we do have some of our trainings, playlists and videos, but I'm gonna click on playlists for a second. For those trainings that we have that are included in a series, like Diversifying Your Portfolio series, which is a breakdown of the acquisition process, or our VA Federal Supply Schedule series, which we're getting ready to revamp and then conduct some live sessions and record it. That information will be included in these playlists. If you're looking just specifically for the videos, you can click here where it says videos, and you can go and find our most recent trainings that we had. If you're interested in, excuse me, there we go. That's why I couldn't see. I had different things on my screen, excuse me. March 14, 2023. Back in March, we did how to create an effective capability statement. So you can click on videos and scroll down, and that's where you can find that training, as well as some of the other trainings. I did mention mentor, protege, and joint ventures. We did that in March. The teaming and prime and subcontractor training was conducted in, I want to say, October. So you would have to scroll down if you did not go into the playlist. Scroll down to that training. I'm going to stop sharing.
There's one more question, Wendy.
Oh, thank you, because when I share, I can't see it, so I'm trying to pull it back up. I'm sorry, everyone, bear with me 1 second. Everything comes back together, and then I have to pull it back apart again. Can we download this training for later reference? It can be downloaded. It cannot be downloaded, but you can always go back to the YouTube channel to review it. If looking to boost our value and lessen our risk, would you recommend the teaming arrangement be part of the organization structure to highlight our ability to perform? So that would really, that's a broad question, and it would really determine the direction, honestly, that your business is planning to go in. For that question, I'm going to direct you to talk to your procurement, name change, your advisor with the Apex accelerators. Speak with your local advisor to make that determination, because teaming is not for every single business. You do not have to team. There are businesses that still bid and are awarded contracts solely just off of their business. And then there are some that do joint ventures for specific solicitations. And then there are some that would team for specific solicitations. So it really does depend. But the person that could actually dedicate more time to be able to help you with planning that out, and because that will be basically included in your business plan, is a advisor with Apex accelerators. Or you may be able to speak with an advisor with the Small Business Development Center, at the Small Business Development Center that is closest to you, a local advisor. You're welcome for showing the YouTube link. How far back in the videos is safe to go for current information? So I'll say that we started uploading our information. Curtis, was it 21 when we started back using YouTube again?
Yes.
Okay, and so we may go back in the trainings that we had. As a matter of fact, I'm not even going to mention that because some of our trainings were repeat from 21. So those are the most recent trainings that we have. Anything, for example, if we were conducting a training once a month or once a quarter, we do not include the training, the older training. We've always archived the older training because that newer training may have additional information on it. We don't want duplicate information that's on our YouTube channel. So you will find the most recent information on there. We got 1 more minute to spare. Are there any more questions? Okay, great. So I see that there aren't any more questions that we have. Again, I'm going to go back to quick survey. Don't forget that the survey will appear once I close this training out. I want to thank everyone for attending today. Happy Tuesday. Happy Taco Tuesday. And I hope you have nice weather that is there. We are going on afternoon time, no longer in the morning. I hope everyone enjoy the rest of their day. And again, thank you for attending.